The next one is very simple. It's from a very small company. I'm just kidding. It's from Pixar. And you know,
Never heard of
Pixar.
them. No idea. Who is that?
Yeah, exactly. So it's like if you take all Pixar movies from Toy Story to all the latest ones, they have kind of a storytelling structure that we use in our improv comedy classes. And we will sit together in a circle, and the teacher will ask us, okay, once upon a time, like when we started the live show, and then we say, okay, every day we describe the normal life of our character, and then after until one day there is a trigger, an event, something that happens to disturb, let's say, the normal life. And then after, because of that, so we are saying because of that, to try to advance the story in a certain, yes, a certain way. So there is one, I mean, I have put here two because of that, because the first one should be a failure, because if I try first and I succeed, yeah, it's really a boring story, you know. So there is this part where you have to challenge your character, as you said, you have to introduce conflict. So the way of introducing conflict is the first, because of that, should be a failure, so that your hero learns something, and then after, because of that, then your hero will succeed until finally they get what they want. And as you said, when you are zooming out before in your story, and ever since that day, you have that this kind, your hero now has gained some new insight and is coming back, let's say, to where they to their normal environment, but they are changed because they have gained something all along that journey.
I really love this because this is a distillation of Campbell's hero's journey
Exactly.
and the steps. And we talked about this a little bit in our last
Yes.
stream and sort of the key elements of a story journey.
Mm.
On the YouTube for this, what we'll do is we'll add a tag up here
Yes.
for that previous episode because I think it's a lot of fun too.
Yeah.
But this is so great. And I relate to this
Yeah.
as somebody that does a lot of tabletop role-playing games, and as we kind of
Okay.
build those scenes, it's a nice way to set the stage for a group of people to experience a story together. And the
Yeah.
caveat that I'll put down is somebody that's run a lot of live games and stories where there are multiple people around the table and they all want to be the hero of the story, and to
Yeah.
some extent they all have to be the hero of the story.
Yeah.
That you need to plan this in a loose enough way that
Mm-hmm.
that people have that sense of autonomy, that they don't
Yeah.
feel like they're railroaded into a plot, but
Yeah.
they've got an opportunity to make meaningful choices through that.
Mm-hmm.
That being
Yeah.
said, those conflict pieces are so important. Where that first conflict, as just to build dramatic tension, is so
Mm-hmm.
important because you need to run into that failure first to see, oh my gosh, how are we ever going to defeat this challenge? How are we ever going to stop this alien menace or these terrible monsters or whatever
Yeah.
the challenge? How are we ever going to find this flower to help my sick mother? To
Yeah.
recall back to our original story.
Yeah.
But then the second part of that experience, the second struggle, may still be a failure, but something's revealed
Yeah.
that shows maybe what the path to success might end up being. And so
Exactly.
I think like what's so powerful about this wheel here is that it does not only is taking you on a set of plot points, but it's taking you on an emotional journey with highs and lows.
Yeah.
And if you're not accustomed to building stories, this gives you the structure to be able to build
Yeah.
them around.
Exactly. I think I will go a little bit philosophical here to make a connection, well, because you are talking highs and lows. You can imagine like your hero, like it's like your hero is riding a wave. You know, there are some crests and some troughs. So it's really going through the circle. You have some highs and some lows, and it's like the wave of life. You know, there are some highs and some lows, and the way we connect, let's say, to characters, to stories. I will talk about how you can use this, let's say, in your brand in the next slide. But basically, as you said earlier, it's really important to have that emotional connection, that human-to-human connection, because this is really where you talk to people's heart and not just to their head, you know. So this is
Yes,
really very important.
absolutely, absolutely.
So I propose that we go to the next one where I'm trying just to give an example of, okay, that's great. I'm not at Hollywood. I'm not trying to tell stories. I'm like a community builder. I have a brand. How can I use, let's say, the Pixar secret story structure just for me? Being selfish a little bit, I think is good. So this is what I try to say here. Say, for example, you want to have the voice of the customer from your brand, or you want to tell people why your brand is different from other brands. So basically, you start with step one, the customer you have your target customer. So this is once upon a time. They're having their normal life, and you describe their familiar situation. They're trying, I don't know, for example, I will take the example of Canva, which is very easy to use to do some design. For example, each time you wanted to do a design, you have to learn to use Photoshop or GIMP or very complex software, but you don't have time because it's not your job, whatever. Until one day there is a problem. You are, let's say, you want to build your own brand, but you don't have the money to hire an agency to build your let's say your brand and all of that. So you have tried many solutions. GIMP is free but too complicated. Photoshop you have to pay, but you don't have the money. And then after you discover Canva, and Canva is like, wow, I don't have to learn whatever. I just go. It's simple to use. It's easy to use. Everything is set. There are templates, all of that. So then after the moment you discover Canva, you are not going back to Photoshop, to GIMP, because you have changed the way you approach, let's say, doing all those things that were very painful before. But that Canva is here today. It's like it's free you. So you come back to here. So basically, I was here the problem. You tried other solution that sucks, sorry for the word, in your lifestyle. Then after, this is where you say what are the unique benefits of your product that will solve, let's say, the target customer, let's say, pain points. We talk about, let's say, benefits because I think it's not just to list the list of features, but to say, okay, how, for example, using your product, how do I feel emotionally? How do I feel as a customer that I'm using your product and that is solving my pain points? And then you say, this is my unforgivable offer. Like today for me, I use Canva for all my branding that I'm doing for my Matception brand. I just go there and then use some templates. I am not going back to Photoshop or GIMP. And then since then, I mean, my life is changed because I know that when I want to do some branding, there is no hassle for me because I know that I have Canva. So this is the framework also that you can use if you want to do like kind of a voice of the customer. You want to send to your customers, to give them a framework, like some question you ask them, they answer the question, and you build the voice of the customer, or your newsletter. You can use it in many different ways in your community building or growing.
It's such a nice application, Ahmadou, and thanks for walking us through the example of it. I'll pose the question to the live stream.
Yeah.
Do you guys find this framework useful? Have you used it in any of your work lives? I'd be really curious if anyone relates to that. I'm definitely going to apply it. I know I've applied it in versions in the past and some of the things that I've done, and I think it's really powerful. I think it can do a lot.
Yeah, I think for me, as I said earlier, I have been writing articles like on a weekly basis for 4 years. So I need to have a kind of a structure to write a new article every week. So having this kind of framework really helped me to tell stories and to make them more engaging, because it's not just only about pushing information out there. It's also to make sure that that information is reaching the people that you want to be reached by what you are providing as a community builder. Yeah, it's very important, I think.